Snark Squad.
Babes.
It is Saturday night.
And babes, the popcorn, it's out.
Yeah.
The wine flowing, the throw blankets, fully on.
Babes, we are, like, fully dressed right now.
Oh, we are.
Like Hamburglar criminals.
Literally.
Because, yes, we are method acting tonight.
Shout out to Party City. Because, babes, they had these burglar costumes on deck, right? And we just said, say less.
Say less. I mean, babes, we wanted to feel like criminals tonight. We wanted to understand the minds of these people.
Right.
So here we are in costume. We are committed. We are completely delusional.
Let's be honest, though. We are drinking wine.
Lots of it.
And yes, we might have had one glass too many, but babes, we do not care. We are here for you.
I am already gone. Like, I am entirely immersed in the chaos of this weekend, and frankly, my grip on reality is just slipping in the best possible way.
I can see that.
The sheer delusion required to exist in this mindset, it's exhausting, but it's so thrilling.
I mean, I am trying to hold it together. I really am. But I am actively failing.
You are.
Because the level of suspension of disbelief we are operating on right now, it requires, like, a completely different kind of brain chemistry. But you know what? We are leaning in.
We have to lean in because, okay, I went to my mom's house earlier today.
Oh, boy.
And, babes, I saw something.
What?
An FM radio clock.
Wait, like the actual physical plug-in-the-wall digital clock radio?
Yes.
With the glaring, like, aggressive red LED numbers?
Yes. Sitting right there on the nightstand in the guest bedroom, a literal plastic FM radio clock. I was entirely transported.
Wow.
Back in time. I just stood there staring. Like, do people even have FM radio clocks anymore? I didn't think those survived the smartphone revolution. And also, WHO is listening to the radio.
Well, if we look at the actual data, logically speaking, there is still a massive demographic for terrestrial radio.
There is.
Yeah. You have your morning commuters who just want someone else to curate their audio, right? Dentists' offices, waiting rooms, people who absolutely refuse to pay a monthly subscription for Spotify. It still exists as a broadcast medium.
But what are they listening to?
That's the real question.
That is what broke my brain. Are they waking up to those morning shows where they play the, like, obnoxious sound effects?
Oh, the Zoo Crew stuff?
Yes. The slide whistles and the air horns. Are they waking up to aggressive ads for local mattress warehouses?
Probably.
Who is waking up to that kind of auditory assault? I was fully spiraling in this guest room, just imagining the sudden, violent burst of static followed immediately by a car commercial at, like, 6 in the morning.
It's awful.
It's a literal jump scare.
It is objectively the most aggressive, stress-inducing way to wake up. It spikes your cortisol before your feet even hit the floor. But honestly, now you have me questioning everything.
Yeah.
Like, is terrestrial radio just a simulation at this point? Does anyone actively turn the dial to find a frequency, or is it just background radiation for society?
That is exactly where my mind went, because it felt so out of place, so archaic, that low-key, I thought it was going to be a fake clock.
A fake clock?
Yes. Like, you open it, and there are jewels inside.
Oh, my God. You really went there?
I really did. I stood there looking at this plastic relic from 1998, and I was like, this is it. This is the hollowed-out safe.
You're insane.
I fully expected to pop off the back panel where the battery backup is supposed to go and just find, I don't know, bearer bonds or a velvet pouch of loose diamonds.
Right, stolen Cartier.
Yes. But no, I opened the little plastic flap, and it was just a crusty 9-volt battery.
Of course it was.
And a clock. I'm still in a spiral over it.
You have officially crossed the line from true crime enthusiast into, like, active paranoia. But I actually love this pivot. Because from a purely logistical standpoint, where did the great art heisters hide their scores?
Right?
Like, where did the people who stole the jewels from the Louvre actually put them?
It has to be somewhere insane. Because you can't just, leave the Mona Lisa under your mattress.
No, you can't.
Are they building secret compartments inside antique furniture? Are there underground tunnels beneath major European cities just filled with sealed PVC pipes holding priceless gems?
Maybe.
Or, and this is what got me going, are they hiding them in random suburban homes like my mom's house?
Okay, think about it logically, though. Hiding stolen art or high-value gems in a completely unassuming random suburban home is actually a brilliant strategy.
Right.
It's the absolute last place international law enforcement is going to look.
Yeah.
If I were building a hyperlogical scenario for a syndicate, I wouldn't use a Swiss bank or a supervillain vault.
No, too obvious.
You find a middle-class, entirely boring suburban house. You hollow out the drywall directly behind a heavy, built-in bookcase. You slide the canvas in there, properly climate-controlled, and you seal the drywall back up.
Oh my God.
You paint over it. No one, and I mean no one, is tearing down a load-bearing wall in a random cul-de-sac in Westchester to look for a missing Vermeer.
You are making so much sense right now, and it is fully feeding my delusion.
Yeah.
Which leads us to a very serious question that I need you and everyone listening right now to really ponder.
Okay, what is it?
What treasures do we think are actively sitting inside our parents' houses right now?
Oh boy.
Because both of our moms live in these massive, sprawling suburban houses that have accumulated decades of stuff. And you're telling me there's nothing hidden in those walls.
Look, if we break down the statistical probabilities, the chances of our mothers harboring international stolen goods or a secret syndicate cache are mathematically negligible. They're statistically zero.
But not absolutely zero.
Fair. Not absolutely zero. And I have to admit, I am deeply intrigued by the idea of structural secrets. Like an old floor safe hidden under a heavy Persian rug in a dusty guest room that hasn't been moved since the Clinton administration. A false bottom in a cedar chest. People used to hide their wealth.
Yeah.
They didn't trust banks, or they had things they didn't want their spouses to know about.
I am fully convinced something is there. In every suburban house, think about the weird collections our parents have.
The creepy dolls.
Yes. Think about the hidden rooms under the stairs, the random drawers in the antique desk that have been locked since 1998 because they lost the tiny key.
Always the tiny key.
There is treasure in suburbia. We are just too polite to take a crowbar to our mother's mahogany credenzas.
I am thoroughly enjoying watching you justify property damage in the name of curiosity.
I'm just saying.
But this overarching delusion you're experiencing about the dark, hidden secrets of the suburbs is, honestly, the absolute perfect structural runway into the heart of what we are examining tonight.
It really is.
Because when you peel back the manicured lawns of Westmont Village, the secrets aren't hidden inside fake FM radio clocks.
No, they are not.
These secrets, the valuables, the security items, they're actively being stripped away by a bored, middle-aged hedge fund manager who decided the rules of society no longer apply to him.
Yes. Grab your wine, settle into the blankets, because, babes, we are tearing into Season 2, Episode 2 of Your Friends and Neighbors.
Here we go.
The episode is titled Lady Bits, and it is an absolute masterclass in suburban decay. It is 30 levels of unhinged, and I have not stopped thinking about the sheer audacity of these people since the credits rolled.
We're going to deconstruct all of it. The psychological desperation, the crumbling facades, the terrible math behind the crimes, and the absolute staggering lack of situational awareness these characters possess.
So much lack of awareness.
But we need to begin with the biological and emotional epicenter of this episode. Mel's unraveling and the absolute collateral damage she's inflicting on the neighborhood.
I am physically and emotionally exhausted just watching Mel. And I want to be very clear here. I deeply empathize with the nightmare she is experiencing.
Of course.
Perimenopause is a biological horror story that society just expects women to quietly endure.
It really is.
The sudden, violent hot flashes, waking up in literal pools of sweat, the tangled sheets, the heart palpitations, the sudden spikes of white-hot rage, the insomnia. Amanda Peet is playing this role with such raw, terrifying accuracy.
She deserves an Emmy just for the sweat acting.
Honestly. But as much as I feel for her, she's become an emotional live wire, swinging wildly in a puddle of water. Everyone around her is getting electrocuted.
To understand Mel's behavior, we really have to look at the physiological reality of what her body is doing. Perimenopause isn't just, feeling hot.
No.
It is a fundamental rewiring of the endocrine system. Estrogen and progesterone levels are fluctuating wildly. This drop in estrogen confuses the hypothalamus, which is the part of the brain that regulates body temperature.
Right.
The brain literally thinks the body is overheating. So it triggers this massive dilation of blood vessels and a flood of sweat to cool the body down. That's the hot flash.
It sounds like torture.
It is a severe systemic alarm bell ringing in her body constantly. And on top of that, she is dealing with the physical realities of tissue changes.
Right. Which brings us to that incredible scene in the steam room.
Oh, the steam room.
Mel is sitting there, visibly miserable, and her friends are just casually pitching her medical interventions like they're recommending a new brunch spot.
Yeah. Have you tried the mimosa? Have you tried hormones?
Exactly. Someone brings up hormone replacement therapy, and then out of nowhere, they drop the Mona Lisa touch.
Ah.
I literally paused the television. The Mona Lisa touch.
The way the show introduces it is fascinating because it highlights how wealthy women share medical secrets. The Mona Lisa touch is a very real, FDA-cleared medical procedure.
It is.
Yeah. It is a fractional CO2 laser treatment specifically designed to treat vaginal atrophy, which is the thinning, drying, and inflammation of the vaginal walls that occurs when estrogen drops.
Wait. I need you to explain this to the listeners because I went down a rabbit hole researching this after the episode. How does a laser fix that?
It's essentially the same science behind the laser facials people get for anti-aging, but, applied internally.
Okay.
A fractional laser delivers tiny, controlled pulses of energy into the tissue. This energy creates microscopic wounds.
Microscopic wounds. Ouch.
Right. But the body responds to these micro wounds by stimulating a massive healing response, which triggers the production of new collagen, elastin, and blood vessels.
Wow.
It effectively revitalizes and thickens the tissue without the need for systemic hormone therapy.
Oh.
It takes about 5 to 10 minutes in a doctor's office.
5 to 10 minutes to rebuild your internal cellular structure. It is incredible science, but the way her friends talk about it, it's just another item on the suburban maintenance checklist.
Yeah.
Get your roots touched up, go to Pilates, get the Mona Lisa touch. But Mel cannot process any of this rationally. She is in so much physical discomfort, and instead of seeking grace, she takes all of that internal biological chaos and weaponizes it outward.
She really does.
She projects her internal misery as pure, unfiltered narcissism against the entire neighborhood.
Exactly. When a person feels like they have lost control of their internal environment, they often try to aggressively over-control their external environment. Which brings us perfectly to the inciting incident of her neighborhood war. Arlo the Mastiff.
Arlo, this giant, lumbering beast of a dog, is just freely roaming the pristine lawns of Westmont Village and actively, repeatedly pooping in Mel's yard.
Huge poops, by the way.
Massive.
Yeah.
And Mel, who is already vibrating with rage from the insomnia and the hot flashes, snaps. She marches straight over to her neighbor Brienne's house.
On a mission.
She doesn't call, she doesn't write a polite neighborhood outpost. She marches to the front door and demands an apology.
And this is where the social contract of the wealthy suburb completely breaks down. Because Brienne essentially looks at Mel, evaluates the threat level, and completely dismisses her.
Totally unbothered.
She offers zero apology. She tells Mel in so many words to get over it.
And then, later in the episode, Mel steps in the dog poop again.
I was dying.
I was screaming. But here's the thing about Mel. She makes her misery everyone else's mandatory problem. She steps in the poop, and yes, that is awful, and Brienne is a terrible neighbor.
Absolutely.
But Mel wants the entire world to apologize to her. She wants reparations for the fact that she is fundamentally uncomfortable in her own skin. She is looking for an external target to absorb the rage she feels about aging.
You've hit on the exact psychological mechanism at play. Mel is substituting the unfixable problem, her changing biology, with a fixable external problem, the neighbor's dog. She can't fight menopause, but she can fight Brienne. It's classic displacement. But because she lacks the emotional intelligence to process this transition, her displacement creates massive collateral damage within her own family.
Oh, her poor family.
Which leads us to the absolute chaos of the surprise party.
Oh my God. The staircase incident, I am still hyperventilating just thinking about the sequence of events.
We need to lay out the facts of this timeline very carefully because the boundary violations are staggering.
They really are.
The family throws a massive surprise party for Tori because she got accepted into Princeton. This is the crown jewel of suburban parenting achievement. But we find out that Mel didn't learn about this acceptance from her daughter.
No, she didn't.
Mel actually hacked into Tori's computer to read her private emails.
The violation of trust. Mel justifies it because she's like the mother and she quote unquote needs to know. But she stripped her daughter of the agency to share her own life-altering news.
Yep.
Mel needed the dopamine hit of the Princeton acceptance so badly that she stole the moment from her own child.
It is entirely about Mel's ego, not Tori's achievement. The Princeton acceptance is Mel's receipt for 18 years of parenting. It proves she succeeded.
Wow, yes.
So they throw the party, all the family is there, the tension is incredibly high, and Tori, standing in front of everyone, drops an absolute nuclear bomb. She announces that she has already formally declined the acceptance.
She rejected Princeton without telling anyone.
And her reasoning is what makes this a brilliant piece of television.
Yeah.
She doesn't say she wants to go to a different school or take a gap year to build houses. She says she wants to do, and I quote, nothing with intention.
Iconic.
And then she twists the knife. She looks at her parents, surrounded by all their beautiful, expensive things, and she points out that they followed all the rules. They went to the right schools, got the right jobs, bought the right house, lived the expected traditional lives.
Right.
And she says right to their faces that it didn't work out for them.
Tori gathered them. She read them their rights in their own living room. And honestly, I felt the earth shift because she is staring at two deeply fractured, miserable adults.
She sees right through them.
And how does Mel, the mature adult, react to her teenage daughter expressing existential dread? She screams in front of the entire extended family, asking Tori if she's pregnant.
It's the ultimate projection. Mel's brain cannot compute that a woman would reject a prestige institution purely on philosophical grounds.
Because that would mean her whole life is a lie.
Exactly. To Mel, the only reason a woman's trajectory gets derailed is biological pregnancy. It shows how deeply entrenched Mel is in a rigid mid-century mindset about female success and failure.
Tori obviously storms off because how else do you react to your mother accusing you of a secret teen pregnancy in front of your grandmother? Mel chases her up the stairs. She is grasping at her, physically trying to restrain her daughter.
It's so hard to watch.
And in the scuffle, Mel accidentally pulls Tori backward and Tori falls down the stairs. It is this horrifying blend of physical comedy and dark domestic tragedy.
It is the physical manifestation of Mel's entire parenting strategy, holding on so tight that she literally drags her child down.
Ugh.
And the aftermath is just as toxic. The grandmother, who's an absolute menace to society, by the way.
A total menace.
She watches her granddaughter fall down the stairs, and her immediate reaction is to make it worse. She compares Tori's emotional breakdown to her Aunt Ali's bipolar disorder, just casually weaponizing a clinical mental health diagnosis as a family insult.
And poor Ali is just standing right there. Ali, who has been working so hard to find stability, was just trying to quietly announce that she got a job as a music teacher at Mayfield.
A real victory.
Right, and it gets completely swallowed by the toxic vortex of Mel's family dynamic.
What is truly fascinating about this entire sequence is the contrast in the parenting dynamics. Let's look at Coop.
Okay.
Coop is a man who is literally sneaking out of his house in the dead of night, dressed in black, to commit high-level felonies as a cat burglar. He's
Or a visceral criminal.
Yet in this living room, amidst the screaming and the falling downstairs, Coop is somehow the only calm, rational, grounded parent in the room. He looks at the chaos and quietly suggests they just give Tori some space to breathe.
I need to stop right here. I need to push back on the entire premise of the Princeton argument, because I have been thinking about this nonstop. Is Tori actually right?
Right, about what exactly? Rejecting an Ivy League education.
Yes. Think about it from her perspective. Is going to a prestigious college, taking on that immense pressure, actually just a scam if the end result is becoming a miserable, emotionally unstable suburbanite anyway?
I see where you're going with this.
Tori is looking at Mel and Coop. They are the blueprint for doing it right. They have the degrees, the hedge fund money, the real estate, and what are they? Exactly. Yeah. Coop is so hollowed out by the pressure of maintaining this lifestyle that he has resorted to robbing his neighbors just to feel alive. Mel is so detached from genuine joy that she is declaring war over dog poop. Why on earth should Tori grind her life and her mental health into dust for a Princeton degree just to end up arguing in a cul-de-sac in Westchester 30 years from now?
That is the central philosophical question of the show, and you are hitting on a very real cultural shift. The return on investment, the ROI on traditional success pathways is rapidly diminishing, and Generation Z is hyper-aware of this.
They see the scam.
For decades, the social contract was clear. Sacrifice your youth to academia, get the elite degree, and you will be rewarded with security, wealth, and happiness. But Tori looks at the empirical evidence in her own living room and sees that the formula is broken.
It's totally broken.
The wealth is there, but the security is an illusion since her dad is secretly bankrupt, and the happiness is non-existent. Tori is demonstrating profound, almost cynical hyper-awareness of the suburban trap.
Exactly. She sees the hamster wheel for what it is.
However, and this is the analytical counterpoint, identifying the trap is not the same as disarming it.
Wait, what do you mean?
Turning down a full ride to Princeton without any alternative structural plan isn't a strategy, it's just an emotional rebellion. Saying you want to do nothing with intention is a luxury belief.
A luxury belief. Why?
It is a philosophy you can only afford to adopt when, deep down, that your wealthy parents provide a safety net that will keep you from actual starvation. She is biting the hand that feeds her, fully confident the hand will let her starve.
Oof. Okay, that is a painfully accurate read. It is a luxury belief. I love her for the absolute chaos of it, but you're right, she has no idea how cold the real world actually is.
She has no clue.
But you know who does know how cold the world is? Sam.
Oh, Sam.
We have that talk about Sam because she is actively trying to survive the freeze. I am crying real, actual tears for Henry.
The situation with Sam and her son is arguably the most brutal psychological violence in the episode. Let's lay out the facts. Sam's 5-year-old son, Henry, is the only child in his entire social circle who is not invited to a classmate named Daisy's birthday party.
A 5-year-old boy, a child who is currently actively grieving the tragic suicide of his own father. I was pacing my living room. I wanted to reach through the screen and shake these women.
So tough.
You do not ever, under any circumstances, punish a child for the perceived sins of the mother. Leave Henry alone.
We find out through Maggie that the exclusion is entirely deliberate. The other mothers have coordinated to ice Henry out because, in the previous season, Sam attempted to frame Coop for murder.
I do not care what Sam did. Sam could have robbed a federal bank in broad daylight. You go to Party City, you buy the little dinosaur napkins, you cut the sheet cake, and you let the 5-year-old eat his slice in the bounce house.
Right.
The sheer, calculated cruelty of these suburban mothers is unmatched by any mafia cartel. It is ruthless.
It is absolutely ruthless. But from an anthropological standpoint, it is entirely consistent with tribal behavior.
Oh, here we go with the anthropology.
Hear me out. Wealthy enclaves operate like closed-system tribes. When a member of the tribe, Sam, violates the core social contract by bringing police, scandal, and murder investigations to their doorsteps, she becomes a contagion.
A contagion.
The community protects its own ecosystem by exiling the perceived threat. And because women in these social structures often wield soft power rather than physical power, their weapon of choice is social ostracization. By excluding the child, they are sending the ultimate devastating message to the mother. Your genetic line is no longer welcome in our future.
That is so incredibly dark. And the worst part is Sam completely understands the rules of the game. She is sitting on her bed holding her phone, and she types out this furious, emotionally raw, heartbreaking text message to her old friends, demanding to know why they are doing this to her son, and then she deletes it.
Yep.
She doesn't send it.
That deletion is the moment Sam evolves. She realizes that an emotional outburst will only confirm their bias against her. If she sends that text, she is the crazy, unstable widow. Begging for mercy doesn't work in a power hierarchy. The only thing that works is acquiring more power.
So what does she do? She pivots completely. She accepts a dinner date with the newest, loudest, most chaotic element in town, Ashe.
Played brilliantly by James Marston, who is practically vibrating with aggressive, new money energy. He brought her roses, he's pushing his way into her orbit, and he clearly does not care about the established social order of Westmont Village.
And I applaud Sam for this, because she looks at Ashe and she doesn't see a soulmate. She sees a battering ram.
That's exactly what he is.
She knows that Westmont Village is a town built entirely on status, wealth, and proximity to power. Ashe is the richest, most aggressive guy on the block right now. Dating him is her golden ticket back into the VIP section. She is using him as a human shield against the other mothers.
It is textbook social engineering. It's not about romance. It's about mutually assured destruction. If she arrives on the arm of the neighborhood's newest billionaire, the other mothers cannot exclude her without insulting him. And they are too cowardly to insult the alpha male. Sam is hacking the social matrix.
It is brilliant. It is deeply shady, and I respect it so much. But speaking of shady, and speaking of people who think they're hacking the matrix but are actually just running headfirst into a brick wall, we have to talk about Barney.
Barney's descent into the criminal underworld is one of the most mathematically absurd things I have ever witnessed on television.
Let's set the stage. Barney, the wealth management guy, the guy who wears perfectly pressed khakis, finds out that his friend Coop is a literal cat burglar.
Right.
And what is Barney's reaction? He doesn't call the police. He doesn't stage an intervention. He decides he wants to optimize it.
Of course he does.
He wants to run the burglary ring like a legitimate corporate enterprise.
Because, of course, the mid-level finance guy looks at a series of high-risk felonies and thinks, you know what this needs? Better spreadsheets.
He tells Coop they need to formalize the money laundering. So Barney introduces Coop to a professional launderer named Brett Sutter. The plan is to wash the stolen, dirty cash through a complex system of cryptocurrency and fake LLC invoices.
Okay, I need to stop and do the math for the audience here, because if you actually break down the underlying economics of Coop's criminal enterprise, it is staggeringly unsustainable. Let's look at the financial architecture of what Barney is proposing.
Please break down the numbers, because when they were rattling off these percentages, I felt like I was losing my mind.
Let's start with Coop's baseline. Coop has stated he needs roughly $1 million a year in liquid cash just to cover his nut.
His nut, right.
The mortgage, the private schools, the country club fees, the sheer cost of keeping up the illusion of wealth in Westchester.
$1 million in pure after-tax spendable cash.
Correct. Now, Coop isn't working alone. He has a partner, Elena. Assuming a 50-50 split of the gross, the enterprise needs to generate $2 million in clear profit just to get Coop his million.
Okay, $2 million.
But it gets worse. Coop is stealing physical items. Watches, art, jewelry. You can't pay a mortgage with a stolen Rolex. You have to fence it.
Right.
A high-end fence, taking on the risk of moving stolen goods, is going to take at least a 40% cut of the item's street value. Often more, but let's be generous and say 40%.
So they're already bleeding money just converting the item to cash.
Exactly. So now they have this pile of dirty cash from the fence. But they can't deposit it, or the IRS will immediately flag them. This is where money laundering comes in. Laundering is a three-stage process: placement, layering, and integration.
Break those down for me like I am a 5-year-old at Daisy's birthday party. How does laundering actually work?
So placement is getting the dirty cash into the financial system, depositing it in small amounts so it doesn't trigger bank reporting requirements.
Smurfing. I learned that from Breaking Bad.
Yes, smurfing. Then, layering is moving it around to confuse the trail. This is where Brett Sutter and his tumbling crypto come in.
Tumbling crypto.
You take the cash, buy Bitcoin, and put it through a mixer or a tumbler. This is a software service that takes your Bitcoin, mixes it in a massive pool with thousands of other people's Bitcoin, and then spits out different Bitcoin to your new wallet. It breaks the blockchain ledger trail.
Oh, that makes sense. It's like pouring a cup of water into the ocean and then scooping a different cup of water out.
Perfect analogy. Once the crypto is tumbled, you have to do the final step: integration. You have to make the money look like legitimate income. That is what the fake LLC invoices are for.
The fake consulting business.
Right. You set up a shell company. Let's call it Coop Consulting LLC. You have the launderer's shell company pay your shell company for services rendered. Now you have an invoice, a receipt, and what looks like legitimate business income that you can pay taxes on and spend freely.
But Brett Sutter, this launderer they are meeting with, wants a massive 25% cut of the total volume just to run it through this tumbler and invoice system.
Right. So let's look at the final math. If you factor in the 50% partner split, the 40% loss to the fence, the 25% fee to the launderer, and then the actual income tax Coop will eventually have to pay on the clean money from the LLC. Coop has to seal something like $6 to $8 million worth of luxury goods every single year just to clear his $1 million nut.
That is mathematically impossible. There are not enough Cartier Love bracelets and Patek Philippe watches in this entire zip code to sustain that volume of theft.
No, there aren't.
He would have to rob every single house on the block twice a year.
It is a fundamentally flawed business model. But the math isn't even the worst part of this scene. The worst part is the operational security.
Oh my God, the ankle monitor.
Because while they are sitting there discussing these massive felonies, Coop happens to glance down under the table. And he notices that Brett Sutter, their brilliant money laundering savior, is wearing a blinking, heavy plastic police ankle monitor.
An ankle monitor. An active, legally mandated tracking device strapped to his leg.
They literally have to bail out of the apartment in a panic. It is staggering, breathtaking incompetence on Barney's part.
It really is.
Barney's very first instinct as a so-called criminal consultant is to hand over their entire financial infrastructure to a man who is currently actively being monitored by the Federal Bureau of Investigation.
I was sweating watching them run out of there. So, because the crypto plan is a bust, Barney pivots. He suggests an alternative integration method. He says they should use Nick's fitness gym to launder the cash.
Which is fascinating mechanically. A gym is a classic laundering vehicle because it is a cash-heavy, membership-based business. You just invent a few hundred fake members, pay their monthly dues with the dirty cash, and suddenly the money is clean gym revenue.
Yes, the mechanics make sense. but I need you to think about the psychology of this for a second.
Okay.
Nick is the guy who slept with Barney's wife, and Barney knows this. Isn't laundering dirty, federally prosecutable money through Nick's business just Barney's absolute genius, passive-aggressive revenge plot?
You know, if we pull back and look at the architecture of what Barney is doing, it is actually deeply poetic.
Thank you.
Barney is weaponizing his own cuckolding. He is turning his wife's affair partner into an unwitting accomplice in a major federal crime. He is creating an untraceable revenue stream for himself while ensuring that if the IRS or the FBI ever decide to audit the operation, Nick is the one whose name is on the lease. Nick takes the fall.
Nick goes to prison.
It is dark, it is twisted, and frankly, it is arguably the most brilliant strategic thing Barney has done in his entire life.
It is so incredibly messy. The layers of betrayal are astounding. Which brings us, inevitably, to the absolute peak of the mess, the climax of the episode.
Here we go.
The heist, the limo, and the trap.
We have to talk about Owen Ashe's strategy here. Ashe, who, as we noted, is the new disruptor in town, sends a literal elongated stretch limo to pick up Coop's son Hunter and his own daughter Delilah.
A stretch limo for teenagers to go see an indie rock band.
The Walkmen.
They were going to see the Walkmen. You do not take a stretch limo to a Walkmen concert. It is such an aggressive display of newly minted wealth.
It is purely performative, but it serves a distinct tactical purpose. Ashe broadcasts that his house is empty. Coop, observing this, realizes the opportunity.
He thinks he's so smart.
He knows Ashe hasn't hired a domestic staff yet. He notes there are no ADT or Brink security signs on the front lawn. So Coop makes his move. He breaks into Ashe's mansion.
And what does he steal? He bypasses electronics. He bypasses whatever cash might be lying around. He walks out with a first edition copy of Edith Wharton's The House of Mirth.
The sheer audacity of this choice. He strolls into a billionaire's home and lifts a piece of classic literature.
I have to point out the meta commentary here because I was an English major and I cannot let this go. The House of Mirth is a novel about Lily Bart, a woman who is completely destroyed by the rigid social expectations, the gossip, and the financial demands of wealthy New York society.
Oh, wow.
Right. She is trapped by the need to maintain appearances, and it literally kills her.
That is a brilliant connection.
Thank you. Because Coop stealing that specific book is the writers telling us exactly what is happening to the women in this town. Mel, Sam, they are all Lily Bart. They are trapped in this house of mirth, destroying themselves to keep up the facade.
It is a stunning thematic parallel, but from a purely practical criminal standpoint, stealing that book is the dumbest thing Coop has ever done.
Oh, absolutely. Because of the climax. Babes, the climax. Coop gets away with the book. He goes back to his office in the city, feeling like Thomas Crown. He walks in, turns on the light, and Owen Ashe is sitting in Coop's desk chair.
It is a terrifying power move, the violation of the sanctuary.
Ashe doesn't yell. He doesn't call the cops. He just calmly pulls up his tablet and shows Coop crystal clear 4K digital video footage. He caught Coop on camera stealing the book in his living room.
Brutal.
I was screaming at the TV. Coop's hubris. He actually thought he could rob the richest, most paranoid guy in town just because he didn't see a little plastic security sign staked into the rhododendrons.
Let's analyze Ashe's play here because it is masterful.
Yeah.
Ashe spends the entire episode acting like this frisky, annoying, slightly desperate golden retriever who just wants to hang out, drink expensive scotch, and be Coop's wingman.
Yeah.
But it is a complete facade. He is incredibly dangerous. Think about his methodology. He knows his house was robbed. He checks the cameras. He sees his neighbor. A normal person calls the police and files an insurance claim. Ashe doesn't do that. He waits in the dark in his neighbor's city office.
Why? Why not just have him arrested?
Because Ashe doesn't want the value of the book back. He wants leverage. He recognizes that having a terrified, compliant hedge fund manager in his pocket is infinitely more valuable than a police report.
He wants a puppet.
Exactly. He wants control over Coop, he is hunting for sport, and he wants the thrill of holding another man's life in his hands. Ashe played Coop flawlessly. He baited the trap with the limo, left the door open, and Coop walked right in.
Okay, we need to zoom out and evaluate these people because this cast of characters is acting with a level of confidence that is completely unearned. I want to pose a question to you and to the listeners.
Go for it.
Are these people actually smart or are they just skating by on pure, unadulterated luck?
Let's break it down analytically. Let's look at the evidence.
I will start. Coop is a moron. He is an absolute moron. He walks around the city scoping out targets while casually listening to podcasts on his AirPods.
Very casual.
Who commits felonies while listening to audio streams. He sits in his glass-walled office unboxing Texas Chainsaw Massacre DVDs that he bought with stolen money. He is leaving a massive, highly documented paper trail of fake LLCs.
The paperwork alone is a disaster.
And to top it all off, he robs the one guy in his entire neighborhood who actually has the capital to install hidden military-grade digital cameras.
From an operational security standpoint, Coop's methodology is non-existent. The fundamental rule of burglary is anonymity. You do not steal highly recognizable one-of-a-kind items from people you actively socialize with and live next door to.
It's so dumb.
That is the definition of a moron. You are guaranteeing that the victim will be looking for the item in your general vicinity.
And Barney is no better.
Barney is arguably worse. As we established, he almost handed their entire financial future, their freedom, and the trajectory of their lives to a man who is legally required to charge an FBI tracking device on his ankle every night.
So how are they not in federal prison right now?
Because they are operating almost entirely on the invisible shield of white-collar privilege and geographic luck. The police haven't caught them because the system is not designed to suspect them.
Oh, that's so true.
When a Rolex goes missing in Westmont Village, the police interrogate the landscaping crew. They interrogate the housekeepers. They look for a broken window suggesting an outside threat. The system fundamentally lacks the imagination to suspect that the handsome, well-spoken hedge fund manager in the Patagonia vest is the one climbing through the skylight.
Exactly. They benefit entirely from the presumption of innocence that their zip code and their tax bracket provide. It isn't genius, it is pure structural privilege.
100%.
Which brings us to the lies they tell to maintain that privilege. We need to talk about the cover stories. Who in this episode had the absolutely least believable cover story? Who folded under the slightest pressure? Call it out.
We have 3 incredibly strong candidates for the worst lie of the episode.
Let's hear them.
Candidate 1 is Tori. She is pretending to go to Princeton, allowing her parents to spend thousands of dollars throwing a catered surprise party, all while lounging by the backyard pool in a bikini, doing absolutely nothing with intention. It is a brazen, passive-aggressive lie of omission.
Candidate 2 is Mel. Mel, who literally just physically dragged her own daughter down a flight of hardwood stairs and then immediately turns to her ex-husband and blames his unresolved trauma for Tori's erratic behavior.
A pivot.
The sheer speed of that pivot, the gaslighting, is Olympic level.
And candidate 3 is Coop. Coop, who genuinely believes he can steal a highly recognizable, traceable, first edition piece of classic literature, shove it in his messenger bag, and assume no one will ever notice it missing or question where it went.
We have to crown a winner. Who is the absolute worst?
It'd have to be Coop.
I agree. It is Coop. Because think about the logistics of the crime. You can fence a Rolex. You can take a gold chain, melt it down into a bullion block, and the provenance is gone forever. But fencing a rare book? Moronic. Who are you selling that to? Are there black market rare book dealers operating out of a Westchester Whole Foods parking lot?
It is an absurd asset to steal for quick cash. The provenance of rare books is meticulously documented. The antique book community is small, obsessive, and highly communicative.
They will find you?
The moment Coop's fence tries to authenticate a first edition of the House of Mirth, it gets run through the art loss register or similar databases. It gets flagged immediately. The FBI's art crime team gets an alert. Coop's risk assessment module is entirely broken. He is stealing for the thrill, not for the economics.
Which perfectly transitions us into a much more fun, purely hypothetical question. I want you to be honest with yourself, and I want everyone listening to genuinely consider this.
We're entering the realm of full chaos.
Yes, we are. If you had one shot, no morals, no legal consequences, full, unfiltered chaos, what are you taking from these massive, sprawling suburban mansions?
I am approaching this logically. If I am already crossing the Rubicon and breaking the law, I am maximizing my return on risk. I am going for high-yield, entirely untraceable assets.
Boring. But okay, like what?
I am looking for the floor safes we talked about earlier. I want bearer bonds.
Wait, what exactly is a bearer bond? People say that in movies, like Die Hard, but what does it actually mean?
A bearer bond is a type of fixed income security. But unlike normal bonds, it is completely unregistered. There is no record of the owner's name. Whoever physically holds the paper, the bearer, is the presumed owner.
So it's basically cash.
Exactly. You literally clip little paper coupons off the bottom and hand them to a bank to get the interest payments. They are incredibly rare now because they were used almost exclusively for tax evasion and money laundering, but older wealthy people might still have them locked in a safe. It is pure, untraceable paper wealth.
Okay, Hans Gruber. What else?
Loose, unset diamonds. Or, frankly, I am not even breaking a window. I am remotely hacking into Brett Sutter's home network, and I am taking over his crypto wallet before the guy with the ankle monitor gets raided by the feds. I want the digital keys to the tumbled Bitcoin. Clean, fast, global.
You are so painfully logical. I want the digital keys. That is so boring.
It's profitable.
If I am breaking into my neighbor's house, I don't care about a bearer bond. I'm going for pure psychological warfare. I want maximum emotional distress. I am bypassing the safe entirely.
What do you take?
I am stealing diaries. I am finding their hidden stashes of weird family secrets. I am unlocking their iPads and airdropping screenshots of their text messages to myself. I want the gossip.
You're a menace.
Or, honestly, to bring it full circle, I am going into the guest bedroom and I am stealing that specific FM radio clock.
You are genuinely unhinged. You are risking 10 to 20 years in a federal penitentiary to steal an object with an actual street value of $0, just to be nosy and cause mild confusion.
Yes, because think about the psychological toll. They wake up, they look at the nightstand, and it's gone. They will spend weeks questioning their own memory. Did I have a clock in here? Where did it go? Did the housekeeper take it? Did I throw it away? I want them to slowly spiral into madness.
You want to break them.
I want to know who Brienne is sleeping with. That is the real currency of Westmont Village. Information is power.
Gossip does not pay the 1 million nut, my friend. You cannot hand your mortgage broker a screenshot of Brienne's texts. But your chaotic approach does perfectly set up our final evaluation. Because people who act on emotion rather than logic are the ones who make mistakes.
Immediate arrests, no questions asked. Who in this group gets caught first? Let's rank them and explain the exact psychological reason why.
I think we are in complete agreement on the #1 spot.
Ooh, #1 is Mel. Without a shadow of a doubt, Mel is going down first.
I completely agree. Mel lacks the fundamental emotional regulation required to maintain a cover story. If she committed a crime, she would somehow make herself the victim of it.
Oh, entirely.
She would steal someone's car, get furious that the car didn't have a full tank of gas, and then accidentally confess to the police detective while loudly complaining about her perimenopause hot flashes.
She would literally say, well, officer, if Brienne hadn't left her diamond tennis bracelet out on the counter while I was sweating through my silk sheets, I wouldn't have had to take it to teach her a lesson. She would incriminate herself out of pure spite.
#2 on the fast track to federal prison is Barney.
Absolutely.
Barney's entire import-export business facade is so incredibly weak. It sounds like a bad front from a 1980s mob movie. He doesn't have the stomach for the violence or the risk of the actual underworld. Plus, as we have exhaustively established, his very first instinct as a criminal mastermind was to actively trust a man wearing an FBI tracking device.
A blinking device.
If the feds brought Barney into a windowless room and offered him a Diet Coke, he would fold and hand over the spreadsheets before they even asked a question.
And #3, Coop. Because the reality is, he literally did get caught.
He was captured on 4K digital video by the man who just sent his son a stretch limo. The absolute crushing humiliation of it.
Ashe played him like a fiddle. Ashe is the puppet master right now. He's pulling all the strings.
If we look at the trajectory of the season going forward, Ashe holds every single card. Coop is entirely at his mercy, trapped by his own hubris. Barney is about to accidentally launder money directly into a federal sting operation. Mel is alienating everyone who could possibly serve as a character witness for her. The net is tightening around all of them.
I'm so stressed out. My heart is racing. I need more wine. Let's wrap this up before I start checking my own smoke detectors for hidden cameras. Bring back the Hamburglar energy.
I never took it off.
The wine chaos, the FM radio confusion, the hidden treasure delusion.
We want to hear from you, the Snark Squad, because we know you are out there sitting in your own living rooms right now, looking at the drywall, eyeing your neighbor's property lines.
You think people have hidden valuables in their homes? Like, be entirely real with us. Have you ever knocked on a hollow wall in your mom's house and thought, maybe? Have you ever lifted a heavy rug just to check for a floor safe?
And what would you steal in this situation? Are you going for the high-yield, untraceable assets like bearer bonds and crypto keys? Or are you taking the psychological warfare route and stealing a fake clock to gaslight your enemies?
And babes, are we okay or are we fully spiraling? because I feel like I'm losing my mind analyzing the criminal intent of suburbanites.
We are definitely spiraling. We left rational thought behind an hour ago. But that's exactly why we are here. Remind the squad what to do.
Rate us, review us, subscribe to the feed, send us your unhinged theories and submissions. Send this deep dive to your friend who would absolutely rob a museum just for the experience.
Thank you to the Snark Squad for joining us in our delusions tonight. We appreciate every single one of you who entertains these deep dives into madness.
Stay shady, stay iconic, and we'll see you on the Snark side.
But seriously, before you go to sleep tonight, think about this. If time is the most valuable asset we have, aren't the real thieves the people who convince us to spend our entire lives working to buy things we have to lock inside a house we are never in? Check behind your bookcases. You never know what's waiting in the dark.